Now, I know because you listen to this show, you love Chicago. In fact, you probably know your community very well. Maybe you're involved in a block club or some other neighborhood organization because you're passionate about the place you live. Well, you might be able to turn that passion into a profession, helping others find neighborhoods that they love with a career in real estate. When you earn your license with Realtors Real Estate School, you'll have access to a community of real estate professionals who can offer guidance and mentorship. Learn how you can get started this summer. Visit realtorsrealestateschool.com/begin. Stay tuned after the interview. We've got a conversation sponsored by Ravinia Festival about all the ins and outs of the fest this year, so make sure you stick around for that. Mayor Brandon Johnson recently expanded financial assistance for families impacted by gun violence, including for funeral and memorial expenses. Now, this news comes on the heels of reports that very few have been able to access a similar state program. We sit down with an investigative reporter who explains why this money is so needed and what families go through when a loved one is either harmed or killed. It's Monday, July 8th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. The Michael Moultrie Jr. Funeral and Burial Assistance Program went into effect last year at the state level. It helps low-income families who have lost children under 17 to gun violence with funeral and burial expenses up to $10,000. The Trace's Rita Oseguera found that just 2 families have benefited from the program since it was created. Rita, welcome to CityCast Chicago.
Thank you for having me.
In your reporting, just how many families are impacted by losing a young member of their family, a child, a nephew, a young person in their community?
Yeah, so the number is higher than you would expect. It was about 106 juveniles who've been fatally shot in Chicago alone. And across the state, it's been about 203. So counting those 106 as well.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the namesake of this program, Michael Moultrie Jr.? How did this program start, and can we learn a little bit more about him?
Michael Moultrie Jr. was a 4-year-old boy. He loved going to the beach. He loved the movie Cars, and he would often take his little toy cars to the beach. And his father told me that he had to keep buying him little toy cars because, he kept losing them in the beach. So he was a happy little boy. He traveled a lot between Alabama, where his mother lived, and Chicago, where his father lived. And he was tragically killed one day when he was getting his hair braided with his father. And his father had told me that he had often gotten his hair braided in the same spot without incident and really never thought this would ever happen. So it was really unexpected, like many deaths with gun violence are. It's just something that happens and you're not prepared for.
Mm-hmm. And how did this program come out of this tragedy?
The legislation was written by Dr. David Nayak, and he told us a story about how he had been working in an after-school program, and one of the students he had been working with was tragically killed by gun violence as well. And he decided to take it upon himself to pay for those burial services for that family. And he saw what an impact that had to just take that financial burden off of that family and let them grieve and let them choose how to properly bury their child. A lot of families sometimes are stuck between cremation and burial, using a casket, just because it's cheaper to get cremation. So some families aren't able to make that own choice because of financial needs. So it's a really difficult, situation. And he saw that and he wrote this bill. And soon after he became involved in paying for these funerals, he found out about Michael Moultrie Jr. and he talked to the family, and they were happy to name the bill after him in hopes that this bill would help other families and his name would be remembered in a happy way, that he was doing something even beyond his death.
I mean, in your reporting, having talked to families who've been impacted in this way, can you shed a little bit of light? Like, what does that aftermath look like for families who are not only overwhelmed with the emotion, the also having to figure out how to memorialize their loved one, trying to seek justice simultaneously? Can we talk about just like why a program like this is so important, not only like financially, but just in terms of providing more support for families?
Yeah, the aftermath of losing a child with gun violence is, I think the best word to call is chaotic. There's a lot that happens. There's the financial burden of having to pay for funeral services, which are really expensive. There's financial burdens of having to take time off of work. And how does that affect your income? How does that affect like having to pay bills? Like people end up getting evicted sometimes because they are lost in this chaos aftermath. So there's that financial aspect. There's just the grieving that happens when you lose someone and having to deal with that and process that. But there's also, on top of that, often people don't know who killed their loved ones. And that just adds a whole nother layer of trauma that you're not able to find some type of closure, some type of justice. So there's that element as well where people are trying to figure out how to properly grieve without even knowing what happened sometimes or who did it.
Some estimates say that like average funeral costs can be around 6,000 plus another 3,000 in cemetery costs. And that's if you go, sort of the casket burial route. How is this program funded? How much can families expect to receive? Like, how does it work and how is it different maybe from other programs?
This program provides up to $10,000. From the two families that we saw, they received $9,000, $8,000. So they are receiving the higher end of that. The budget for the program is around 5 million, and that's shared with another funeral program as well. But it's definitely something that, they're not using the whole thing. We clearly saw only two people receive money from this program.
I was stuck there for a while on that two people, given the overwhelming number of families you've said have been impacted. I mean, the number of stories we've seen alone. I mean, why is this program moving so slowly? Like, why have so few families received assistance?
Yeah, that's really the question we had as well. One of the kind of answers that we got was that the Illinois Department of Human Services is required by law to spread the word about this program and to create a pamphlet, which they should then distribute to stakeholders like organizations that provide victim services, funeral homes, places that, work directly with survivors. And we found out that that hasn't been done yet. And in this upcoming month, in July, it's going to be a year this program has been into effect. And for there to not have been a pamphlet yet is troublesome because people need this program. People should know about this program. And we did find out that the pamphlet is being finalized and it's going to be printed and distributed soon, but it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. If max amount of families got the max amount of dollars, that budget could theoretically help 500 families, and only two so far have received the assistance amongst, I think, less than 10 that have applied. When someone like Michael Moultrie hears this, how does the father respond knowing that his son, who again, he's still seeking justice, he's still grieving, when he hears that after a year, only two people have received the assistance, what's that response like?
Well, he was very upset.
Yeah.
It's, he said it was an insult to his son, to the mother of his son, to himself. They still don't know who killed their son as well. So this just adds another insult to them from the city because they have not heard from police about the investigation in their son's killing. And now they're hearing that the program named after the son is not being shared and only two people have received money from it. So he was very upset. But he has hope still, that more people will learn about it, and he's happy that it exists and that those two people at least got the money that they needed.
Okay, so picture this. You walk into a Memphis recording studio and you see Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins all about to get down. No, you not dead and you are not seeing ghosts. That's the experience you're gonna get when you see $1 Million Quartet at Paramount's new Stope Island Theater in Aurora. The intimate space is actually a replica of Union Avenue and Sun Studio, so you're gonna feel like you inside of this epic jam session with these artists featuring songs like Walk the Line, Great Balls of Fire, and more. $1 Million Quartet opens July 10th with tickets on sale through December 2024. But they're selling fast, so get your tickets now at ParamountAurora.com or by calling the box office at 630-896-6666 and prepare to time travel.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. The best way to learn a language is immersion, living where the language is spoken and using it every day. That's how I learned French as a kid. But if that's not in the cards for you this year, you can still learn a language the second best way, and that's with Babbel. I live in a city with a huge immigrant population. You probably do too. And in my hometown, a lot of my new neighbors speak Spanish as a first language, and we have lots of great Mexican and Central American and South American restaurants and stores. I wanted to be able to communicate just a little bit better with some of my neighbors. So I started with Babbel, the science-backed language learning app that actually works. And after just a few extremely enjoyable weeks learning Spanish with Babbel, I've already gotten comfortable ordering at a restaurant and eavesdropping on my girlfriend's conversations with her mom. Look, learning a language isn't always easy, but with Babbel it is fun and it feels useful, basically immediately. That's why Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold. Plus, all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
When you reached out to other families to ask if they knew about this program, what were some of those reactions you got?
Yeah, we spoke to organizations who work directly with survivors, and they had heard about the program, but they didn't know how to apply. They were very confused. They thought it wasn't into effect yet. They thought it wasn't funded. There was an article last year that mentioned some confusion around the funding, whether it was funded or not. But really, even going online and looking for the program, trying to find the application was difficult and confusing. So a lot of people just don't know that that's available now, and it's available for people to apply.
All right, so let's walk through this. How does a family apply for funeral and burial assistance in Illinois?
To apply for this program, you basically fill out a form online, and unlike the website says, you can email it to them as well. And the website says you can only mail it to them, and that is incorrect, which I think also maybe didn't encourage people to apply, because mailing things is confusing. But people don't need to do that. People can email the application to the Illinois Department of Human Services, and they're going to need a copy of their child's death certificate. They're going to need documentation that verifies their household income, because this is an income-based program. And they're going to need a statement detailing the funeral and burial expenses. And since you're applying directly with your funeral and burial provider, that's an easy one. It's just an itemized list of how much it would cost.
What exactly could the money cover? Because I know there are so many expenses involved, but what exactly will it pay for?
It basically will pay for anything that's related to the funeral and burial service. So it can provide the transportation to the child who was killed to the funeral establishment, preparation for that child, the casket, the urn, the vault, and any administration costs, like printing materials, just like the even like the flowers at the funeral home, things that would be in the funeral. So it can provide for a lot. It's just something, that has to be worked out with the funeral and bureau provider.
Obviously, when you hear a low number like 2, we focus so much on that, but also you point out that there were others who applied and didn't get the assistance, and that the majority of people who applied to this point didn't receive the assistance. Do we have a sense of why they were denied?
Some people were denied because there was missing information. So normally, if there's missing information, you apply, and within 30 days, they should tell you whether you're approved or denied. And if you need more documents, then they will send a letter out to request those documents. And then you have 30 more days, and then they will approve it or not. So it seems in that process of maybe there was more documents needed to make sure like you fell under the income bracket or the death certificate or something like that, that something was missing with the documents. And the other reasons for why some people were denied was I think some people applied on their own. Maybe they heard about the program, wanted to do it on their own, but you have to apply with the funeral and burial provider. So there was some confusion around that too.
Is this a situation where families will be reimbursed after they have to put this money down, or are they able to get this cash, immediately or straight to the funeral provider?
This program provides money upfront to families. So instead of waiting 6 months or years, like the Illinois Crime Victim Compensation Program, which also provides funeral costs, but is a reimbursement program, this program will provide it within a month or 2 months, depending if you need more documentation. But that's why you work directly with a funeral and burial provider, so they can kind of upfront that cash, and then they will get reimbursed directly from the state. So it's a much quicker process. And from the 2 people that we saw that did get reimbursement, they did get that money really quickly. And that's something that people need during that time.
Are families eligible for reimbursement if they learned about this program after the fact?
Yes. So that's the great part right now, since there was some confusion at the start of whether it was funded or not. They've provided some reimbursement for a certain amount of period since it started. So people today still can get reimbursed for something that happened last year.
In recent weeks, the city of Chicago announced that they will expand assistance that helps Chicagoans and their families cover the unexpected costs after immediate death due to gun violence. What is different about this expansion compared to the statewide program, and who can apply to this program, and what can it do for families?
Yeah, so the Emergency Supplemental Victims Fund is directly for the city of Chicago, and it covers 15 neighborhoods now in Chicago specifically who have faced the most gun violence in the city according to the city's stats. But if it's someone younger, under 24 years old, then that's across the whole city. And it provides a lot less money. It provides about up to $3,000 for 3 different types of services: funerals, relocation, and daily needs. So it's a bit different in that way as well, where it's less money, but it's even a quicker turnaround. I would say it's about 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks if more documents are needed. So it is much quicker, but less money as well.
What has been the response to this program from, the neighborhoods, community members most impacted?
So we spoke to a family who actually received funding, and it helped them a lot. Even if it's a small amount of money compared to all the costs that come with the aftermath, that it helped a lot. And not only that, this program also requires you to apply to it with a victim advocate. So the help doesn't just end there. You're now connected with a victim advocate who can help you get mental health services, who can help you with more money, maybe if you need it. Victim Advocate Services has so many programs that it's just great that people are now connected to that, and they got some help too.
Yeah. Does the city connect with you to these programs, or do you have to go out and locate them on your own to apply?
You have to locate them on your own, but they have all that information on their website, and it's actually very user friendly. I know a lot of government websites are not, but it's It's very easy to understand which neighborhood, which program, which organization, and what number you're supposed to call.
Have there been any challenges in creating and expanding this program?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is going to come up in 2 years because this program, the expansion is fully funded by the American Rescue Plan Act, which is the COVID money.
The number of things that are funded by that are vulnerable to being wiped out is, I mean, the number of conversations I've had in the last few months that are like, that COVID money running out. I'm just like, damn, you too.
Yeah, that I think would be the biggest worry with this program, but they're trying to find ways to show that this program works. And I think that's the whole point, like with a pilot program too, that it works. So then other private funders or organizations can try and donate and fund it as well. So they're trying to diversify that funding. They're working on it now. So hopefully in the 2 years when that money is supposed to run out, then there's a solution to it. But we'll see in 2 years what happens.
Why is it so important that we continue to just offer this nuance when we're talking about families dealing with the sort of the overwhelming task of moving forward when they lose someone, especially a child?
The impact of gun violence is so sudden and so tragic and so scary that it can happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And I think hearing from families all the time and knowing everything that they've gone through, that it's important to keep that in the forefront. It's important to know that this is happening and that there might be programs, there might be things, solutions available, and, to advocate for them or to talk about them or to share those programs. It's really important that people know about it and don't forget their names, because we don't want their loss to be in vain. We want something better for the rest of the kids. We don't want this number is growing, and it shouldn't be. It should be going down. And that's what we should keep in mind.
Rita Oseguera is a fabulous reporter with The Trace. We are so grateful here at CityCast for you making time for us today.
Of course, thank you so much for having me.
We've got more on these programs at the link in our show notes. Now we've got a sponsor interview from Ravinia Festival with our executive producer, Simone Alicea, about all of the ins and outs of the fest this year. I think I've decided I'm going to pull up on TLC and Shaggy.
Hey, I'm CityCast Chicago executive producer, Simone Alicea, and I'm here with Eric Soderstrom, the artistic producer for the Ravinia Festival. Eric, welcome to CityCast Chicago.
Hi, Simone. Great to be with you today.
We are big Ravinia fans over here at CityCast, I gotta say. And Ravinia really is a household name around Chicagoland. But can you tell me a little bit more about Ravinia's mission and history?
Ravinia is celebrating 120 years this year. 1904 is our founding. We're the oldest North American outdoor music festival, and we do about 100 events from mid-June to mid-September every year. Chicago Symphony Orchestra is in residency for 6 weeks. And we also present a wide variety of other forms of music, whether it's jazz, blues, hip hop, rock and roll, progressive rock, bluegrass, you name it. We try to have a little bit of something for everyone at Ravinia each summer. We also have a very strong commitment to music education. Our music education department is called Reach, Teach, Play.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the music education part of Ravinia's mission, but I really want to touch on something that you were getting at, which is I think people really underestimate the diversity of Ravinia's lineup every single year. And so I'm going to ask you, this is going to be the hardest question of the interview, I promise. If you had to narrow it down to just one show that you could see this year, what performance are you most looking forward to?
I would say Samara Joy. She's going to be with us at the end of August. Young jazz singer. I think she's maybe 25 years old, but has this voice of a wise, seasoned jazz singer.
So luckily, I am not going to make you narrow it down to just one concert. I'm actually hoping that you will play a little game with me. So what's going to happen is I am going to give you a person or an outing, and like if you had to take X, which 2024 Ravinia concert would you take them to? So for example, if you were like Simone, you have to take your mom, I would say we're going to go see The Roots on August 24th.
Oh, that's a great choice.
So Eric, let's say you had to bring a group of kids. Which concert would you bring them to?
We're doing Disney's Up later in August. The score is an Oscar-winning score, and the storyline is cute and fun, a little bit sad, but mostly a Disney production that is a must-see for anyone with kids.
Yeah, that's happening August 17th. The night before is going to be Princess Bride in concert as well. Another favorite film of mine. What if you are bringing a date to Ravinia?
TLC and Shaggy is a good date night. That should get everyone in the mood, right, for some fun. And, you know, if your date is a little bit more rock and roll, then maybe you come see ZZ Top or OAR towards the end of the summer. Or if your date is a little bit more Americana or rockabilly, then I would suggest Jason Isbell in September.
Last one, let's say you've got a big group. All your friends are coming, birthday, bachelorette, you're packing a picnic on the lawn. Where are you taking them?
That big group, I think, would be Princess Bride, as you mentioned earlier. It's such a classic film. It's so funny.
The other one I was thinking was the Voice of Whitney Houston on August 30th. Just something very dancey, very nostalgic, very, very upbeat.
Yeah, this is a really unique program. Her estate has commissioned this program, and Ravinia is the first place where it will be premiered worldwide.
In addition to getting me into that festival, the ticket does a lot more than that. Number one, it supports some of those music education opportunities that you were talking about. How does that work? What kinds of education is happening? And what are you doing in Chicago?
Yeah, every ticket that's purchased, a piece of that, the proceeds go to our Reach, Teach, Play programs. We have an entire department of music teachers that are out in the schools all year round, even in the summertime in the libraries and other places. And they are teaching certain instruments to young students who don't otherwise have access to music. And so in some of these communities, Lawndale, for example, there is an entire orchestra that has now been created over the years. So it's the heartwarming piece of what Ravinia does. We're quite proud of it. And it touches thousands of community members across Chicagoland.
My ticket can also help me actually get from Chicago to Ravinia in Highland Park via the Metra. Can you explain how that works?
Honestly, the Metra is the reason we exist. The Metra created the Ravinia Park back in 1904 as a place for people to come and see the suburbs and also enjoy some amusements. And so you can take the Metra from anywhere on that North Line all the way down in the city of Chicago and almost all the way up to Milwaukee for free. Your Ravinia concert ticket is a free round-trip Metra ticket on the night of the concert.
So I think this just brings me to my last question, which is, where can we buy a ticket?
Yeah, absolutely. The most important question. Ravinia.org is the website for purchasing tickets, and we're just getting started with the season. So there's plenty to offer all the way until mid-September, and we hope to see you all on the Ravinia lawn.
I am definitely going to try to make my way out there this summer. Definitely one of my summer bucket list goals. Eric, thank you so much again for being here. Check out Ravinia.org to learn more, and we're going to have that link for you in the show notes as well. Eric, thanks again.
Thank you, Simone.
Before we let you go, make sure you're tapped in with our website, chicago.citycast.fm. There you'll find our latest articles, neighborhood guides, and you can subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago. Of course, we can't let you go without some good news. With all the summer events we talk about, let's not forget the Chicago Public Library has a great selection every day. Today, we got a scrapbook club in North Austin, a Game of Thrones book and TV guide in Washington Heights, adult karaoke nights at Albany Park and Chinatown. Plus, there are 9 film screenings today at branches across the city. You can find their full calendar at a link in the show notes. As always, I appreciate you for listening and hopefully reading as well. I'm going to be back bright and early tomorrow. We're going to talk to you then. Peace.